right, welcome back to the Race World First recap, where we got some interesting developments in the Race World First. I think that the last 24 hours kind of went as expected. Liquid went dark on Demensius with a very narrow kill of Nexus King Salhadar. We kind of talked about that in yesterday's video, and then we kind of talked about Echo for a little bit, and they were able to down Salhadar during their split, or during their reclear, and they actually killed the boss pretty quickly. I would have actually liked to have seen the boss die maybe an hour and a half earlier, but realistically, Echo has been looking as good as they have been for a very long time. I think that this is the best that Echo has looked in a while.
Yeah, they looked really, really good here. I think it's been interesting because before the reset, I would say, oh, you didn't change the scene here in this one to the new topics on here. Oh my goodness, unprofessional. I think before the reset, Echo, like the final days of Reset 1, it looked like Echo were the best guild by quite a bit. And then Method and Liquid were maybe pretty close for second and third, and arguably either order. I think that the 48 hours after reset now have, at least after the NA reset, I guess 36 hours at the time of recording this, it's instead looked like, okay, Echo and Liquid are 1 and 2 in some order where it's like so close that I don't know what the order is. And Method are again firmly third, which it's weird. It's weird that it's kind of reverted to that. If you talked to Max last week, he was saying like, look, stuff didn't feel right about how last week went. The Fractalist strat, like something fell off, and that's not been fully diagnosed yet, nor are they thinking about it too much right now. But that's definitely going to be a part of the post-mortem of this tier for sure. But either way, it seems like Liquid are back to firing on all cylinders. That is something, though, that we'll have to see how well Echo do with pulls 90 through 150 of Dimensius, where Liquid were able to get the boss most of the way through P2. Echo's still working at the start of that phase, but of course a little bit behind in pull count. I think that's going to be the question, because like this is one of those bosses where it's really hard to get an idea of how well Liquid are doing by watching Liquid only.
Yeah.
You kind of need to see like, oh, Echo are having a harder time in P1. Oh, Echo are having an easier time in P1, right? Like those sorts of things are really important to understanding which of these guilds is actually getting the better of the other here.
I mean, phase 1 consistency, I think, is going to be...
It's crazy hard phase.
Yeah, it is by far the hardest phase, and it seems like both guilds actually got different knowledge about what to kind of do about this boss from one another, from watching them actually progress the boss. Where Liquid started out with the reverse gravity, which is whenever the players get knocked up in the air, they were like putting people off the edge. They were like sacking people sometimes. That seemed like it was going to be an ineffective strategy. Eventually, there became a strategy where there's like this Venn diagram of the reverse gravity that now both of the groups are on. They determined that that is going to be the best strategy for being able to get the players out of the air. And then it was kind of this question of like, how are we supposed to pace this phase 1 sequencing, where basically both of the guilds as well have started Warlock gating into the middle on the second Devour cast.
There's no alternative. You need to get all 8 of the excess mass together for that Devour, so nothing you can do except get into the middle of the room. I think it's pretty close to a 2 Warlock requirement on this fight. I guess you could have one side gate to the other and like run in. That sounds cringe though. I think this fight, for the time being until they nerf it, is going to be a 2 Warlock fight plus for any guild that kills it.
Yeah, and I mean, we even see some kind of differences in terms of composition for both of these guilds. These aren't like major differences, but they are kind of like subtle differences, where Echo are on this double Preservation Evoker, Restoration Shaman, Holy Paladin, and Liquid's on this Restoration Druid, Holy Paladin, with both of them running the double Pres Evoker. So the double Pres Evoker is obviously very OP whenever you're splitting your comp. So the kind of main difference here is going to be that Feral Druid that you're see play here, whereas Liquid don't have that Feral Druid, but I think that the Resto Shaman looks really compelling.
The Resto Shaman does look pretty good, especially for like their Riptide ramp healing style. Works really nicely scaled down to a 10-player target count, which you often have on the sides here.
Does Spirit Link not just look absolutely fantastic for this? So they're getting...
It does look really nice.
So the reverse gravity happens. Now they have the antimatter. They drop the puddle on the Devour cast. I feel like Spirit Link would go great here. And that's a point where they've actually had a lot of deaths.
Yeah, this entire phase. I mean, that second Devour, definitely one of the nastiest parts here. Dude, this boss also parries. I keep noticing Jack getting parried. That is so cringe. So let me just say, if this is a boss that parries, what is the point of, like, I get why they do it on some bosses. I don't like it, but like this boss should not parry. What are we doing?
The hitbox of this boss is actually really cursed on the edges as well. So if you see his targeting reticle, this is actually just his hitbox.
Yeah.
For some reason,
you have a big space in the middle. Like you can be in the back middle, but you have to be right at the front on the
And this
sides.
is, I think that this is like the most annoying thing for melee DPS in particular too. Otherwise, melee DPS would have a pretty easy job of being able to do damage to both the living masses, because there is a living mass that is like behind this one that Shaq is, so you can't really see on screen right here. But
yeah,
I think that, you know, if the boss's hitbox is a little bit bigger, that'd be fantastic. There's also some weird nonsense with travel time on a bunch of abilities for this guy as well. But we're kind of in slingshot season, is what we kind of call it, where both of the guilds are now looking to leapfrog one another, where whenever Liquid goes to bed, Echo will leapfrog ahead of them, and then whenever Echo goes to bed, Liquid will proceed to leapfrog them. And we are going to enter an interesting situation where we see this occasionally. We saw this on Fire Rack, I think, most recently, where guilds are going to be simultaneously pulling the end boss at around similar positions on the encounter in terms of boss progression.
Yeah, it's been interesting because the new reset timing that we have means that there's actually quite a few hours of the day where both guilds are fighting, right? It's something like 10 a.m. Liquid time, they start raiding, and then Echo are still going until something like 3 p.m., but maybe 5 p.m. if it's close to a kill, right? If they're pushing it on the afternoon, and then even later potentially if it's really close to a kill. So there's a decent chunk of the day where both guilds could be playing at the same time. We are definitely in that time where like both guilds will spend some fraction of the 24 hours in the lead. Liquid typically have the advantage of like, in a default situation, they probably get 16 hours of the day ahead, and Echo only get 8, something like that. Just because, you know, Liquid get the first crack at it on the reset, and the reset really did reset this race. Like that lived up to its name this time around. But it's one of those things where like if Echo are playing better, then they could be ahead all of a sudden for 13 hours of the day, and Liquid for 11. And it's also a question of how many days we go here, because this boss could die in the next 24 hours. It could take 48. It could take 72, or in the next increment of 24, which I can't do in my head because it's late and I'm sleepy. Could be.
But probably not, though.
There's no way to be sure. Yeah.
I think it's actually kind of interesting because Echo was, I would say, ahead for 6.5 bosses, right? They were all the way through.
They weren't ahead. Like I don't think they necessarily, like Forge Weaver was still world versus by Liquid. I guess Echo was gaining ground maybe there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I would say is like.
But Liquid spent a lot of pulls with those ads having 40% more health than they were supposed to. So
that is true. Yeah, that's actually kind of.
I think up till Forge Weaver, it's hard to say that a huge advantage was gained by Echo. It was probably the standard, you know, gaining ground that Echo does if both guilds are playing equally well.
And then
I think after that, yeah, Soul Hunters, Fractalus, Salhadar before the reset frog.
I think first 50% of Salhadar progression.
That went way better for Echo. I think it went better for Method as well. We have a fight happening here, fight breaking out for our other casters.
I fucking told Cams, I freaking told Cams.
You're good, sorry, it's loud.
That I have to, he's gonna want food. He's like, you're gonna want food. What do you want? And he says, nothing. Give me tots. No, give me nothing. So I got him fucking tater tots and a hamburger. And I tell him, Cams, I got your food. You bitch, fuck you. I'm like, what? Fine. I didn't get you any food. Well, fuck you. He's mad at me for both getting any food and not getting any food. What do you want? What do you want, Cams? Tell me what you want.
I want them to finish the video.
I can't.
Well, you heard it here first. They want us to finish the video. We'll see you tomorrow.
It'll be here.